The Greens are in control. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from the Daily Mail, written by Peter Van Olsen, their political editor, about, well, the influence the Greens have on Australian politics at the moment, and particularly Labor's dependence on the Greens to get anything through the Senate. Now, this is one of the advantages of our political system. You can vote for a minor party as your first preference and get representatives in from that minor party or even an individual, and they can influence, direct, and support the government how they see fit, or they could put roadblocks and argue for their own agenda. Now, Labor certainly didn't have a majority. Labor needed preferences to get in everywhere they could, and it looks like Labor is completely dependent on the Greens to get things through the Senate. So, well, let's have a look at what's going on here, because the concerns are, if you don't support the Greens, or even if you support Labor, you should be worried that your party is so dependent on a group which, if you start tearing apart investigating their policies, there's historical evidence of a lot of them. They're just ludicrous. They don't work and they've failed. Their rent control approaches are atrocious. A lot of their, well, environmentalism seems to have has taken a back seat to other ideological movements. We went through all of the policies of the parties years ago. We should do it again for the next election because it's definitely going to be interesting. I think a lot of young people vote for the Greens just out of ignorance, to be quite honest. So, let's have a look. Greens leader, now the grand puppet master of Australian politics. This is what happens when you don't get enough votes, Albo. You need to go crawling on your hands and feet to the Greens. We've got an early indication today of just how much power and influence the Greens will have if Labor is reduced to a minority government after the next election. This is why you need to make sure Labor isn't in power at the next election. Would it be nice to see the Liberal Nationals in coalition with another more sensible right-wing, I'd say, leaning party? Maybe the Libertarians, maybe One Nation. You get a mix of people in Parliament so we can kind of have, well, the opposite to what's happening now. So the answer is a lot. On the final parliamentary sitting day of the year, Labor's agenda initially stalled in the Senate. The opposition, the Greens, and other crossbenchers combined to delay or reject much of what Albany Albanese claimed are core policy achievements of his administration. They can't be achievements, however, if the ideas don't pass Parliament, whatever the merits of the policies. Knowing this, Labor suddenly capitulated to a host of Greens' demands, including coal, oil and gas projects being excluded from future Made in Australia investments. Just think about that. Coal, oil and gas. These are huge sections of the Australian economy. Why should we restrict future Made in Australia investments from huge sectors, which we are dependent on? Queensland is dependent on coal. Queensland government is dependent on coal. All the royalties pay for so much. This is where this is an example of a policy from the Greens, which is just ludicrous. We've got these natural resources. The environmental impact of Australia using them are negligible on a global scale. Exporting them is irrelevant with regards to that, because if we don't export them, other nations will. So there's no difference. One could argue that some of our natural resources, the labour is better, the technology used to extract it is better, you've got better conditions. So ethically, you'd want people to be using our resources because, the workers in our mines are going to have a bloody better quality of life than people in other parts of the world. That's not even to discuss the content of our minerals compared to other parts of the world. But I guess not. See, this is what frustrates me. These are the bigger picture perspectives that you need to take. The world isn't black or white. It isn't good guys versus bad guys. It's scales of grey. That's what really frustrated me at university, particularly when we're doing the ethical subjects. In my last year, where you had to develop a brief yourself for a particular project, and I made the argument that it'd be worth developing an ethical compass to argue for or against any particular type of project. A supermarket could be a fantastic project if you look at it from an economic perspective, from an employment perspective, from addressing food deserts. But this is a bit of you need to have a larger understanding and a macro view of things to analyze it like that, or even think about it like that. And as architects, we're meant to be generalists. That's how we're meant to think. But no, everyone just did a bloody skyscraper internal bullshit garden farm in the middle of the city because it was covered in plants. I mean, that's so stupid. So utterly stupid. What do you get? You receive minor benefits and reduced transportation costs, I guess, taking it from the farm to the market, when instead you're driving from inner city to all the shops you're taking it to. What's going to be it frustrated me that at that level we didn't have that type of rigor, and I argued that it should have been transferred over to our professional practice subject as part of the ethics, and well, there you go, it didn't happen. There's a lot of ideological driven education in our universities. When people say it's indoctrination, it's kind of the bullshit hoops you got to jump through. I looked at doing another postgraduate qualification. There's all this woke shit in it. And at least in architecture, when you were putting a project up on the wall, you could make a solid argument and reason your position. So you could counter what was put before you. And I thought that was fantastic. That's what you want. You want rigorous debate. But you couldn't have it. There you go. So this is one example of my frustrations with the Greens, everyone. And architects love the fucking Greens. I shouldn't be swearing, but you know what I mean. Guys, they love the Greens. So many of my profession are just all over the Greens. But you've got to look at it at a bigger picture. What's more important? Jobs, prosperity, opportunities, or ideological positions? When the difference is only the jobs, prosperity, and opportunities. Export Finance Australia will be legally prevented from financing any domestic or overseas fossil fuel projects. Awesome. See, this is what they want. They want to stop all of these projects. How many Green senators do we have here in Queensland? Or Greens members that we have here in Queensland? Our state is funded by bloody coal, guys. The coal export industry in Australia is huge. Iron ore is huge. Natural resources are huge. These create jobs. These provide lives for people. Someone will go work off in the mines, come back, fly out, piss away their money on the weekend when they're back in civilization, head out to the mines. Do they not see that? Do they not understand that hamstringing Australia from investing in these projects is not going to make any difference globally? If anything, it will reduce the ability of our nation to provide amenity to our citizens and probably hamper any technology development we could achieve that could address many of the environmental challenges that we face as a civilization. I guess not. That's not important. The Treasurer will retain the power to change interest rates in spite of Reserve Bank recommendations. There you go. What's the point of having an independent Reserve Bank if the Treasurer can just change things? Jim Chalmers has vowed to legislate that so far unused power away, but he's decided to break that promise to secure the Greens' support for his other RBA reforms. There you go. Broken promise because the Greens said no. I mean, shit, could you imagine what would happen to the economy if the Greens were in charge 100%? Oh, we've seen it so many times all over the world before. $500 million extra cash will be tipped into an energy efficiency plan to lower power prices for social housing tenants. Oh, boy. So what are they going to... They're going to spend a fortune. Is it going to be the fat bats thing again where people died? Energy efficiency. Let's put a door seal on it so you think you're going to save some money in your modelling. It's not going to make any difference to the bloody pensioners. They should be the ones getting the solar panels. All those solar panel rebates, it should be tied to income. If you earn over 50 grand, you shouldn't get it. It's bullshit. That's another form of charity. It's welfare. And all up, Labor gave into the Greens' demands across 21 separate bills. There you go, guys. They're going to market the shit out of this. They will definitely do it. That gives the Greens leader Adam Bandt the opportunity to claim victory over Labor in the standoff between the parties. Bandt boldly declares Greens' pressure works, and he's right. Albo has proven that he's already happy to concede on policy amendments just to get the laws passed, and the Greens don't even hold the balance of power in the lower house yet. I mean, here you go, everyone. This is the danger. If the Greens get more power, you're going to see more and more of it. We're essentially, right now, it feels like we've got a coalition between the Greens and Labor. And the danger is it's going to move Labor even further away from their working class base. It's just going to be the inner city Greens voting petite bourgeoisie that will be dictating the party that used to be for the workers. And it's not for the workers anymore. Come on. Just imagine how much bolder they'll become making demands of a minority Labor government when they need Greens backing to stay in power and avoid being forced to an election in a weakened state. Brand will be able to use this newfound knowledge about Albo after the next election if minority government ensues. We can't. Don't let them get a minority. Don't let Labor get in power, guys. Seriously. Come on. Hopefully enough people would have realized what it's like. You're getting a taste for it. How much money have Labor wasted on completely pointless referendum. They're so detached from their traditional voter base, they're proposing things that the average Australian doesn't care about. The majority doesn't agree with. I guess when you only get in with, 30% primary vote. Albo had always claimed that he knew how to stand up to the Greens and not let them dictate terms because he fought the Greens candidates in his own electoral backyard for years. Albo's inner-city electorate has a strong Greens presence, including in state and local government seats that overlap with his federal seat of Grandelair. But when push came to shove on the national level, Albo capitulated, knowing that he had more to lose than the Greens if all those bills stalled over summer. If the Greens do hold the balance of power in the House of Representatives after the next election, much less if they also secure the majority power in the Senate. Nah. Now, I can't see that happening, guys. If we have a look at the recent elections here in Queensland, the Greens have lost a lot of footing here at the state level. So let's have a chat about this, guys. I mean, to any sensible, reasonable person, you'll be frustrated at hearing the news that the Greens are having so much influence on mainstream politics. But this is a fantastic example of how getting a minority party into Parliament can influence what happens here in Australia. So this is encouraging, for all the libertarians out there, for all the One Nation supporters out there, for all the, what's another one? I think there's an Aboriginal party in New South Wales. Now, we've got so many parties in Australia. That's the only problem, guys. There's so many minor parties. But this is what we want. This is what we want in our political system. We want to have a mix of major and minor parties in there. Well, they should be debating these things, but the Labor just rammed through 40 bloody bills in a day, so they're not really debating it. It's all backroom deals. The decisions have probably all been made before the debates even happen. I suspect the debates are just for show. But nevertheless, you want to ensure there's a mixture of people in Parliament. You want to use your preferences. Learn how they work. Put your favourite minor party, even if they don't have a chance of winning there, because if they receive enough votes, they will get funding to compensate them for the costs of running. And there are costs involved. They're not going to make huge coin, guys. They may just cover maybe a bit for their call flutes and their fuel to put it up, let alone all the time they spend on stuff. So you put your minor you like first, even if they don't get in, as a show of support. And you never know, maybe they will. And then you make sure you put a sensible major party before you put all the funny ones, guys. That's it. What was it? You could vote for Family First. You could vote for the legalized marijuana party. They're getting pretty big numbers. If you look at some of the results, guys. There's the Fishers and Shooters party. We'll go through them at the next election, guys. We'll do another 6-hour bloody live stream looking at every candidate. But there you go. Look at how much influence the Greens have. What do you reckon? Think this is a good thing for Australia or a bad thing? Let me know. I'll see you next time.